detailing other things besides figures. Normally it's a hard thing to hold them.
Yeah.
The other thing is, if you look at my two buildings back there, you will notice they have doorknobs. I'm a fan of that. Tiny little details, just a few, will help to trick people into thinking there's more. So like an electric meter on the back of the building, I usually have one of those doorknobs. Here are these tiny little straight pins. And notice what I make the doorknobs with. Paint the head black, cut it, snip it short, stick it through a hole, and it's an instant doorknob, which sticks out from the building instead of just a dot of paint.
Where do you get these?
Like Joann's Fabrics.
Oh, okay.
And here's the Amazon scoop on the brushes. Oh, what's the price there? That's $7.99 for 6 of them.
Wow. Oh, that's not bad.
Somebody else was talking about, or maybe I was talking to you the last time we were at your thing about the big handle brushes. Maybe
Yeah.
that's where I heard that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that idea. Especially since you could get these.
That's it, exactly.
Yeah. Wow.
Pick out the black pieces.
The last time we were here, I mentioned something about the pressure sensitive tape. And what I tried to do was roll some up on some, if somebody wants some of this, basically, I don't know, 2 to 3 feet on here. So if you're putting on a roof or something, it's great for that kind of stuff.
Oh, I see, yeah, I remember.
You know, it's not tape, it's just the adhesive. So you just...
Good on both sides, you say?
Well, when you roll it off, it'll come off. Here's a piece of the backing. So that the adhesive is on here, and you just push this onto something, and then you roll it off. And at least the adhesive, bring the other piece in and put it down. But I've had this for years, and it's been in the dark and kind of sealed up. Still works great. The roll that I have is still 10 inches across. So I was trying to get rid of some of it. So if somebody wants something, just take it. Okay?
Give some a try.
And if you want more, I'll try to get some more.
All right. This is an all-door box car. This is a 3D printed center cab with 3 separate lengths of frames. This is a 3D printed east broad top side dump hopper, and this is a 3D printed real car trailer that's been painted and decaled. No trucks yet.
How long have you been doing 3D printing?
5 years or more.
5 years, oh wow.
What scale?
What, these? Or 130?
Oh, I see, yeah.
But that's show and tell.
Thank you. Here we are back at the fun part of the evening, and that is our main feature, and that tonight will be Nick Muff is going to talk about 3D printing. He's been doing that for several days now, and has gotten quite proficient at making little brown balls. That, you know, I'm just kidding. So no, he's been doing this kind of thing for quite a while, and I'm not sure how detailed. We'll find out if he goes, how far he goes back in time. But I was called him or emailed him a couple of days back. My son was down in Duval's house, and he says, "Hey, Dad, I want to show you something." And he shows me this 3D printer, and I go, "Where'd you get that?" And he goes, "Well, the guy at work was talking to me about 3D printing," and I acted interested because I really wasn't, because I don't do anything with 3D printing. But the guy started talking to me about it and was showing me things, and then one day he walked into my office and set it down and said, "There you go." And because he was upgrading his 3D printer, so I told Nick, I'm gonna actually have to take notes tonight, because, you know, usually I just, you know, sleep during it. No, just kidding. So thank you very much for coming, and without further ado, Nick, you're on.
All right. That's a pleasure to be here with you. And I can't recall exactly how I got into 3D. I, for many years, have done 2D drawings for various brass manufacturer companies that I work with. And at one time, it appeared that I was going to learn the need to do 3D to work with them, but it turned out not to be so. But at some point, it seemed interesting, and I thought, at my age, do I need to do this? How steep will the learning curve be? How much will it cost? And or how frustrating will it be? So I thought, well, hey, why not? So the first thing was to find software, and I'm expecting to pay some hundreds of dollars, but I found it's not current anymore. 123D Design by AutoCAD, which was free, which was the right price. And the other thing I discovered, which was new, when I learned 2D drawing, you had a manual that you read through. Now this is the age of online tutorials, which is absolutely amazing. All you have to do is type in 123D Design, how do I draw a torus? And a tutorial will come up, you watch that. And I should have probably brought those things up. The first thing I saw was a tutorial on designing what looks like maybe a flywheel. It has holes in it, it has a rim around it, it has a hole in the center, the shaft hole, and a keyway. I thought, well, if I can draw that, I can probably draw just about any mechanical thing, which turned out to be true. So, basic steps from design. First is the concept. You know, it's something that you want. Preferably it's something nobody makes, like an East Broadtop gondola, or something you need that nobody makes. And the next thing is to get a design, and whatever program you design it in, that will be converted into an STL file. And then, let's see if the thing, yeah. Then you load that into a print. You know, both of my 3D printers, the resin printer and the filament printer, have their own software which slices the model. It's going to be built in whichever way you do it. It's going to be built in slices. So you have a slicing program which cuts it and produces a machine file. The machine file is what actually drives the printer. So you've got your drawing, goes to an ST file, it's cut, it goes to a machine file. And then from printing, after printing, then there's post-processing, which we'll talk about that. But once you're done with the print, there are various things that need to be done to it. So, first thing you can do is find something on Shapeway. Somebody's telling you they're not doing well financially. But let's
They went bankrupt.
If
Shapeways is no more.
this is how they used to look.
Your password is choo choo.
And then, let's see, the first thing you can do is go to here's my shop. So here are various things that I have drawn over the years and uploaded. And here's a Milwaukee Road transformer in HO scale, S scale, N scale, anthracite coal car I did for Bob. And what you do is, once you have one of these drawn and successfully printed, you can add it to your shop and offer it for sale. And the general idea was, at least it's still running, the general idea was they tell you how much it's going to cost to print it, then you determine the markup. It can be 5%, 10%, 100%, whatever you want for the markup. And then they take 15% of the markup, in addition to the cost of printing it to begin with. The nice thing about that is I draw it, I upload it, they print it, they ship it, whatever it sells. I don't have anything to do with it. I just get the money in my account. So, let's see. Next thing is Thingiverse. Has anybody explored Thingiverse?
Some of it's free, some of it costs.
What's that?
Thingiverse, some of it's free, some of it costs
Yeah.
money.
At least the one that I have run onto, it's a tip. You can download it free if you want. If you like what you did, it'd be nice to send $1 or $2 to the guy who designed it in the first place. So here are various things in Thingiverse. Search. So I just asked to search under train, and these are the things it came up with. I found a lot of nice things on there, if you have something specific that you need. Okay, then the other thing that I've gotten into is Root Cowan. Anyone watching the videos online? It's well worth watching. His how-to programs are really great. Boulder Creek. Come on.
I think he was at Monroe.
He's from Australia.
Well, maybe not. There was some guy, the Boulder Creek sounds familiar. There was some guy that was doing, maybe I was.
So, I may not be able to find it really quickly, but if you find one of his projects, like for a hotel or whatever it is he's doing, he'll have 3D printed details that he puts on his buildings, and those files are available free. Whether it's an air conditioner or an electric meter, or I've got some of them over there in a tiny little box. They're tiny little pieces. Manhole covers, telephone, electric pole transformers. But the one that's most amazing to me is a tiny little tripod to hold a work light at a construction site. It's so tiny you can I can't even imagine that I printed it, but it did print. So the other thing is you can pay someone to design your items, and that can cost whatever. The only thing I've had done that way, I'll get to, is the trunks for my cypress trees in my swamp. Anyone know what cypress knees are? They're part of the root that sticks out of the water like a thing. They think maybe it helps aerate the roots or something. Anyway, one company makes some cypress trees. They're made out of twisted wire. They look exactly like they're made out of twisted wire. They don't have knees, and they're only about 30 feet tall, whereas cypress trees will go up to 60, 70 feet, which in HO scale, by the time you get to 80 feet, that's a foot tall. So what I did is had the lower part of the trunk and the knees printed, drawn, and then printed them. My daughter found this person as a Chinese college student, and he makes money to go through college by doing drawing. She had a unicorn tape dispenser, all these things he draws. I tell people I can draw a gear, but I cannot draw a person or a horse. So it's nice to have someone to do that. Or you can create your own drawing in SketchUp or 1, 2, 3D design, which is what I do when I can't find what I need, as long as it's not a horse.
SketchUp costs? It costs, and it's a fee
It
now?
does, as far as I know. I didn't price that out.
Huh. We used to use that in my classroom and it didn't cost anything back then. Of course, it's been several years.
Okay. So once you have the drawing, oh, here's shapeways. And Thingiverse. And here's Luke Cowan. And here are designs on Thingiverse. So here are the cypress trees. That's what they look like in real life. They have big fat bottoms on them and taper pretty rapidly, and they have the knee. I don't see any in this particular picture. So here are the drawings that he did for me. And I got turned cedar trunks to go the rest of the way up, that I put a pin in both ends and glued them together. That's the way they are so far. And here is, I wanted some soda machines for my layout, vintage soda machines. So I drew an upright version and a chest version, and it's a simple matter to print 30 of them, which explains why. There's a little plastic box back there with about 25 of them in there, and each of you is free to take one home if you would like. I have a little package of plastic bags you can put them in to take them home since they're teeny. So here is what the cutting program looks like for my filament printer. You can see the box that defines how big a thing you can actually print. And here is my model loaded on the base. You go Control C and V, and there'll be two of them, and you can just copy it as many times as however you want to print. You can rotate them. You can size them too. If you want to change the scale, or you want it bigger or smaller for some reason, you can do that in the cutting program. And I think you can see, okay. This has a raft under it. One of the, well, all of the printers, 5 I've ever used, have the same problem. Either you can't get the print to stick to the build plate, or you can't get it off once you're done. So there's various tricks. But the trick for this is, if you just start printing it, that first layer, the filament may not stick evenly, and so it won't print well. So you can have it put a raft underneath, which is first it prints a flat piece, and then it prints the model on top of that. And by adjusting the printing speed and the heat, it creates a weakness between the model and the raft, so that when it comes out, you can peel the raft off. So here is a filament printer. Let's see, I think I have more. It uses a tiny, I think it's 3 millimeter, could be 2 millimeter. Plastic filament, ABS is what I use. It extrudes it out through a heated tip like toothpaste. Goes back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and then the build plate moves down slightly, and it goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth for every layer. And the trick about that is, how long it takes to print is very much related to how many layers there are, because it has to squeeze toothpaste over each layer. If you've got a lot of big layers, it takes quite a while. It can take 6 hours maybe. Lower resolution, but there's no cleanup. When you peel it off the base, it's done. It's not sticky or nothing more needs to be done to it that way. And they cost $200 and up as a rough estimate. And this is a Flash Forge Creator Pro. Here's another one that costs $500 and will print in multiple colors. Here's what the filament looks like. It comes on a spool. And I've never had the cost of an individual part, but the spool lasts a long time. 1.75 millimeters. And For either of the printers, they suggest you print from a flash card or thumb drive. I started out with a USB cable, but they don't recommend that. Any little jiggling of the cable that interrupts the signal and the whole print is ruined. So if you have a flash card in there, there's no danger of that happening. Here's this particular machine has 2 print heads, so it will print in 2 colors, not simultaneously, but alternately. So there's a roll of black filament. There's a roll of white filament. Like I say, that's on the back of the machine. So getting it off, number one, it will be much easier to get the print off if you do it while the print and the plate are still hot or warm. You wait till it cools. Actually, what happens is I heat the bed plate up again to heat the print up to get it off. And I've used a putty knife, and my cousin John, who's really into 3D printing, gave me this knife, which is nice. So post-processing, to be honest, I've not done this yet, but you can help to eliminate improve the appearance of resolution in a finish by dipping it in acetone so that it smooths the plastic over. And the other thing is, if you're going to paint this filament print, it's actually quite porous. It'll take a lot of paint. So my friend John in Texas gave me that printer as a thank you for building his Southern Pacific Grand Central Station in Houston. So I've used that for many years, and then I thought about getting into a resin printer. Again, I'm not sure why I did. Did I need more headed? Anyway, here's my resin printer. Higher resolution, much higher resolution, but harder to clean up. They're $200 and up. This is a Nova 3D Elfin Mini printer. And the resin is set by ultraviolet light. So the yellow case prevents ultraviolet light from entering the printer from the outside. And this, I don't remember how much mine cost, but here's a similar one that cost $549. And so on this, anyway, this prints with resin that you buy in a jar. That comes in many, many colors. A jar like that of resin will last me 6 months.
Are there any advantages to one color? Or, I mean, do they behave all the same?
They behave all the same as far as I'm concerned. It may need to be changed machine settings some, but I never have. I printed in gray, white, orange, black. Oh, and one thing I should mention, maybe I say it later on. This thing is giving me a headache. Okay, now we got a mouse again, that's a good thing.
One note about resin printing, when you got the liquid, shake it up really good before you try and use it.
Yes.
Why is that?
To mix it,
Oh, so it settles?
so the solids don't all go to the bottom.
Okay.
The input, as he notes up there, input by thumb drive, that's very important. You plug it into the side and leave it alone.
Okay. So here is the control panel, and here is the thumb drive. This one runs from a thumb drive. So here, I don't know why I put the picture sideways. Here's a printer with the cover off. Cover's off. Here is the screw drive that drives this build plate up and down. And at the bottom is a resin tray, and it has a fill-to line on it. And so you fill the tray with resin, and then when you begin to print, this build plate will come down, 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 down. And what's underneath there, well, in the resin tray, there's a thin layer of clear film which keeps the resin in the tray. But underneath the clear film is a screen which more or less like a giant cell phone screen. It's either black or ultraviolet. Where it's black, it won't print. Where it's ultraviolet, it will print. And here is the build plate. It has, you can see, 4 screws you can use to level it, kind of. But thank God I never had to do that. It worked when I hooked it up, and I haven't touched it since. And here is the resin tray and the clear membrane. You have to be careful to remove any loose print pieces in the tray, in the resin, in the tray, before you print again, because that comes down, and again, like I said, to within a zillionth of an inch for that first layer. If there's pieces in there, it will crush them against that membrane and damage the membrane, or the screen underneath is the worst case scenario. What I do is I just dump the tray each time, and I dump it through a very fine filter back into the bottle. And then there is, I think I'll show that there's a plastic scraper you use to just run over there to make sure it's completely smooth and has no loose pieces stuck to it. And there is the heart of the printer. This is the screen. Of course, you need to keep that very clean. So here are the resins, and yes, thanks for pointing that out. They should be shaken well. It says so on the bottle, shake well. And the bottles are sticky, hence the pink tray. That, I don't know if I say it later on, they now have water cleanup resin. The way to clean it up, the way to clean this resin up is with alcohol. So I have a giant gallon bottle of 99% alcohol.
99?
Yes, 99.
91.
And so post-processing, again, a knife helps to pry the parts lace from the build plate. Sometimes they don't stick, and then they end up pieces of them staying in the tray. And then again, if you let it sit for a while, it's hard to get off. So what I do is I take it into the kitchen with the hot water tap, you know, the instant hot water tap, and heat the build plate, and then they come right off. So this is a tub full of alcohol and a brush for cleanup. Gloves help, can be very sticky. Filter any remaining resin through this filter back into the bottle. And I didn't shear the end of the yellow scraper. You go on Amazon and type in plastic scrapers for resin printers, and you'll get one. Then post-processing. Number one, when you take it out, I put the build plate and the printed parts in that bucket of alcohol and go over it with a brush. That's to get off remaining uncured resin on the final print. Once it's washed off, then it takes a 3 to 6 minute trip here, through this ultraviolet box. It's just a silver lined box, foil lined box, and then this little thing here is, they use that like in a mall to put a cell phone on for display, you know, it turns around, and it's driven by this photo cell, so it doesn't have to have any electrical connection to require any batteries. You put the parts in there, turn it on, close the door, let it set, and it will cure the last of that stickiness. So here are some parts which you've probably all seen by now that I designed that are printed by Shapeways. These are the equipment for my sugar mill in Louisiana. A water tube stationary boiler, a stationary steam engine, a 3-roller cane mill, and a evaporator to evaporate the cane juice. I just got to tell this story. I had a patient who was the son of someone who owned a sugar mill in Louisiana, and they had one of these giant coreless engines. And the person who runs that is called an engineer. The engineer needed to take a potty break. While he took his potty break, the belt that drove the governor broke. And so the engine oversped, the flywheel disintegrated and went out through the roof and walls. When he came back from his break, he no longer had a job. This is now Al had to help me here. I visited the still standing Milwaukee Road power station near Othello, Washington, at a place called Taunton. Still there. There's still rail. There's still catenary poles up. The equipment's all gone, but I drew it and published it. And at the same time I drew that, I drew plans for the motor generator set. I have to fudge these numbers a little, but they have to buy city power. The city power comes into transformers. I convert it down to, I think, 60,000 volts AC. Then they have a AC generator on one end. The other end is a AC motor, a DC generator. The DC generator puts out 6,000 volts DC. This was outside the building, and I drew it and I built it. I had no idea what it was. My dear friend Al, who's not with us.
You see that like it's a bad thing.
Yeah, that is a three-phase oil-filled circuit breaker. Now these are some of those Luke Talent parts I was talking about. Maybe on the screen you can see here's a garbage can, there's a pallet, like a garbage can, an old tire, a fuse box, another fuse box, a swamp cooler without the pads in it, a set of steps. Here is the little tripod for the work light. Here's that first thing I drew, flywheel, whatever you want to call it. And Bonnie used to come to our meetings here, built that G-scale model of the Skycomish substation for Skycomish Museum. So this is a 3D printed Great Northern transformer in her scale. Of course, that's the easy thing about 3D printing is here it is in HO scale. And here is my cypress trees in the swamp with the 3D printed bases in 3 sizes and the turned cedar trunks the rest of the way up. And that is it. So are there questions?
Which printer gives you the best resolution?
Sorry, this part.
Which printer gives the best resolution?
A resin printer, by far.
Okay.
That tripod, that would be absolutely totally impossible to print with the filament printer.
I used a printer like that, belonged to another company, but it was about 4 foot square and stood about that high with the solution.
Yeah, I used to tell people that's why I stopped printing at Shapeways. Their fine printer is as big as a refrigerator and costs $60,000. And if it breaks, they have to fix it. I don't have to fix it. And that particular one I'm talking about uses acrylic dust. They sweep acrylic dust over it. They set it with a laser. They sweep a tiny layer more and hit it with a laser. That produces very fine detail. As I mentioned to someone, printing can be done in multiple materials, including brass and aluminum and iron and gold, silver and gold and platinum. That's for jewelry, obviously. And the thing about 3D printing with brass, how in the world do they do that? Very easy, lost wax. The first copy first is printed in wax, and then it's invested in cast brass is put into it.
When you're printing some, say you're just printing a box. You've got a box and you're gonna print out. Is the box hollow?
It can be.
Do you normally do that though? Or?
Yeah, you want to, because you don't want to waste
Make
material.
printing much quicker.
I should tell you that, and that is, in the filament printing, the inside of the, whatever you're printing, including if it's a box, or a triangle, or a cylinder, or any other thing, of any significant size, the interior is honeycomb.
Yeah.
You can control how thick the outer wall is, you can control the intensity of the honeycombing, but it's not printed solid, it's honeycombed inside. Yes?
I have a comment on resin printing to clean up.
Yes.
Get your part off the build plate, put it in a Ziploc bag with 91% alcohol, stick it in an ultrasonic clinic for about a minute, and it's all cleaned up.
That is a good plan. I hate to clean up.
Alcohol and a ultrasonic cleaner liquor.
No, you
Yeah.
put the alcohol in the bag,
Yeah, but
and then the
the-
water in the ultrasonic cleaner.
I know of somebody using one of those and set it on fire, and you don't know it's on fire.
That would be exciting.
Yeah.
Lost work, clean up everything.
Yeah. No, the lost house.
Yeah, right.
Other question. All right, well, it's a lot of fun. I didn't mention, I thought it would be a headache. I love 3D drawing. I'm never happier than when I try to think of something I need to draw. It's equivalent of putting a jigsaw puzzle together to figure out, how am I gonna do this?
How difficult is it to do window frames? Like, I was starting, I had a guy in Bellingham that's doing my production parts for my train car products. And he went out of business at the end of the month last week, at the end of June. And so I was just about ready to have him do Pullman windows so I could change the side of the car with the old style Pullmans with the Gothics up above.
Yes.
And they're pretty thin, and I didn't know how
Well,
tough that
you
is.
know, the way to do that and get the level of detail that you would really need would be with a resin printer, and the thinness would not be a problem. Relatively easy to draw.
Yeah.
You can print that tiny little tripod. You can see it when I
Yeah.
it, I'll show it to you.
Well, I've had him do some small parts,
Yeah.
yeah. Nothing quite that thin. But then he suggested, I talked to him once about a few months ago, he suggested I do the bathroom windows in clear. And then they got the little vertical glass panes in it,
Well, the obscure kind of,
obscure thing, yeah.
yeah.
And,
Well,
so anyway, when he went out of business, I thought, well, there goes my project. So,
yeah. Too bad that shade weight that they're gone. One thing that they provided is when you are proposing to print your part in a particular material, there are various minimums how thin it can be. If it's supported, it can be thicker. If it's not supported, they have all those parameters. And when you design it, you can make sure that your part is thick enough that it will print reliably.
Well, I was needing something, you know, I can't afford $5 a window because old Pullman car's got a dozen of them on each side. But what I was gonna do something, if I could work this out on the old River Rossi cars, cut the old windows out, put the new ones in, and try to make a kit to sell, was my
Yeah.
program. But I didn't want a $300 kit that they had to put together paint.
Well, you know, yeah, that's commercial. If you're doing it yourself, they cost pennies a piece.
Well, yeah. Again, I don't know if I wanna go into that and try to learn the process.
One more little tip on resin printing. If you take and elevate the item at an angle
Yes.
and then put a support underneath it, it prints a lot better. And it's easier to get off the build plate.
And so what he's saying is good, you know, that's the advice. However, then it creates a complex series of supports to hold that up at an odd angle like that. Let's see, I think I can do it. First I'll click on File, see what happens. See all these files? Bell, crib, bell, nut, boiler seam, boiler section 1. This person created drawings for a Union Pacific big boy.
Whoa.
Here's what he worked from. Here's, you know, a driver, cylinder, here's the front of it. Now these are various sections of it. Somewhere along here, if I go far enough, there's a picture of the locomotive assembled. see if I can find that. Anyway. Here it is.
Holy buckets, wow.
Now, all those files.
Is that in scale?
All of those files were available free. I just downloaded the whole thing. Now, why would I want that? Answer. Any of them can rescale. If you want a driver for your shop, you know, sit up against the wall in the roundhouse, or a steam dome, or a piece of the frame.
Yeah.
So there's a big boy in whatever scale that is. It's kind of like G scale to me.
Yeah, a little bigger actually.
All, you can download it for free, print any of those parts you want, any scale you want, as many as you want.
Wow.
Interesting.
Any more questions? Thank you very much, Nick.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Nick.
Yeah.